And when we look at someone who's showing clear evidence of declining cognitive performance, we ask ourselves, is there something that can be done to either slow, delay, or potentially reverse that process? Hi, this is Dr. Bob Hariri from Piloting Health, and happy to be with you. And many of you, like myself, are following some of the recent developments in the news. There's no doubt that with the Olympics upon us and with the recent news that President Joe Biden has decided to withdraw from the presidential race, in large part because of concerns about his declining cognitive performance, many of these things hit on topics we've been talking about for some time, namely human performance and preservation of human performance, and the regenerative medicine tools that may be used to address things like age-related frailty, cognitive decline, etc. And so I want to cover some of these things today and give you an insight into some of the opportunities that are in front of us in the field of cellular and regenerative medicine. You know, what is it in the regenerative medicine world that's going to impact physical fitness, health, vitality, performance in the future? So I've been getting a lot of questions from people who are getting ready to watch the Olympics. They themselves are pretty active fitness enthusiasts, and in some cases, athletes. They run marathons, half marathons, etc. And they ask, what is it in the regenerative medicine world that's ultimately going to impact their future in how they perform, either competitively or just in their normal fitness routines? And in thinking this through, it's pretty clear to me that we've often covered the topic of how important your muscle is, your muscle tissue is to your general health, your ability to maintain good metabolic function, and also I've spoken quite frequently about how the muscle tissue acts like a reservoir for the stem cell population that's necessary to continually renew and remodel and renovate you during the course of your lifetime. So, thinking about what is happening in my field that might ultimately impact the lives of folks like I just described. So a couple of things. First and foremost, we're working to demonstrate that cellular medicine may in fact be a cornerstone of ways to preserve and maximize muscle health, particularly in people who are suffering from age-related sarcopenia, that's age-related muscle loss, and the consequence of that, which is age-related frailty. And one of the areas that I think I'm most excited about is the fact that in our clinical experience, testing these stem cell products derived from placenta, we've actually seen some very compelling evidence that we can actually improve the quality, quantity, and performance of muscle tissue just by delivering supplemental stem cells to the system, either by a direct injection or even in some cases by just systemic infusion. Now, it's important to note that most of this work is done in more serious, life-threatening, unmet medical needs, but the data we're collecting specifically in muscle gives us a lens into where this might go in the future. Now, I had the pleasure of talking with Thomas DeLauer, one of our most popular and prolific fitness enthusiasts and overall kind of fitness and wellness coaches. And we talked a lot about what it takes to maximize your performance while you're creating your own health and wellness strategy. And, Thomas is an incredibly physically fit individual, has recognized that there's a couple of areas where we might actually be able to enhance all of this. And one of those areas is in the modulation of the effects of a protein called myostatin on your overall muscle health, wellness, and density. And so I'm here to tell you that there's a lot going on in understanding how myostatin modulation, either pharmaceutically, with nutritional supplements, or ultimately even using cellular medicine, might be able to impact people's lives in the future. Myostatin modulation as a target for drug therapy has been explored in the treatment of certain muscular dystrophies, and more recently, there's interest and potential activity going on in the treatment of certain acquired muscle deficiencies. We're particularly excited because as this field begins to evolve and grow, there'll be more attention directed to ways to supplement muscle function by controlling the rate of decay that's related to age-related changes in the general system, including the immune system. So one of the things which is top of mind today is cognitive performance, and one can only look to the front page of any news media to see that as President Joe Biden has announced his leaving the presidential race, in large part encouraged because of his perceived declining performance at the debate, on the debate stage, at international conferences, even in press conferences. I think people say to themselves, could that be me? Could this kind of decline in sharpness, in clarity, could this affect me? Because maybe I'm in my 70s, maybe I'm in my 60s, and I'm realizing I'm not as sharp as I used to be. So let's talk about that a little bit. So, the brain is obviously a complicated, very, very sophisticated organ system. Brain function is dependent upon a whole host of physiologic activities, including the synthesis of neurochemicals, the interaction of those chemicals on neurons. These are the cells of the brain that create complex networks like a computer network that allow us to formulate memory and formulate thought and calculations and so on and so forth. And when we look at someone who's showing clear evidence of declining cognitive performance, we ask ourselves, is there something that can be done to either slow, delay, or potentially reverse that process? In the field of regenerative medicine, there's always been a lot of attention paid to this because there's great hope that the kinds of biological activities exerted by stem cells and the byproducts of stem cells might, in fact, turn back on some of the functions that are lost in the brain as we age. So I'll give you a couple of just overall observations. There's no doubt that declining cognitive performance is associated with changes to the quality and the quantity of functioning brain tissue, and it's even measurable in certain parts of the brain, like the amygdala, a segment of the brain that's often associated with things like long-term memory. One of the areas that is of increasing interest is, could stem cell or stem cell derivative type therapeutics play a role in improving the quality, density, and interaction of tissue in that part of the brain in order to preserve memory, or in even some cases improve it. The other important element of all of this is that the blood supply to the brain, which is very critical to cognitive performance, declines with age because of accumulated small vessel changes that are characterized by what we call arterioatherosclerosis. Arterioatherosclerosis, or hardening of the arteries, is associated with a decline in the amount of blood that can make it to the brain, and as a consequence, the amount of oxygen that's delivered to brain tissue. Brain is very dependent upon oxygen and very dependent upon a supply of glucose in order to perform its functions. So as we age, anything which diminishes those things will have a negative consequence on cognitive performance. You're all also hearing a lot about all of the nutritional supplements and additives that can be introduced into your lifestyle that may, in fact, help improve the quality of your memory, the quality of your cognitive performance, and in some cases preserve it, particularly as we age. It's really clear that the quality of your muscle tissue has a direct correlation and effect on the quality of your brain performance. So one of the things which I often tell folks is if you notice that as you age, you have declining cognitive performance, get yourselves into an exercise program, even something as simple as walking, and over time, loaded walking. And what I mean by loaded walking, I mean walking against a gradient, like an uphill incline, or walking with some weights. That will all improve the overall performance of your muscle tissue. Muscle is very synthetic. Some of the products of the synthesis of muscle tissue actually help support brain function. And overall, all of this creates a system interplay between muscle and brain, which helps maintain cognitive performance. In addition, people are very, very interested in, are there diseases, specific diseases like Alzheimer's disease, There's a condition called Lewy body dementia, which is associated with a specific type of metabolic defect. Can those things be reversed, arrested, or slowed with some type of regenerative therapy? All of these things are in play right now, and we're working hard to come up with strategies to deliver therapeutics into this area. And then last but not least, there's no doubt that the future is promising because there are programs such as adult cell banking programs, which we are one of the providers of this newly launched service, which will give people an opportunity to collect early enough in life some of their own stem cells that can be processed, cryopreserved, put into suspended animation, and then potentially delivered back to them as they age in order to augment their regenerative system and potentially have a beneficial effect on cognitive decline. So those are some of the things that are in play. And that's one of the reasons why I'd like you to continue to follow what we're doing here. And I'm excited that at Cellularity, we have launched the beginning of our adult cell banking program, which will give all adults an opportunity to collect, process, and preserve their own stem cell populations for some of these purposes in the future.